in our community that books live music and has to shut down at 10 or 11 p.m. would be negatively affected after they have invested in this community and built up a structure. Not to call out names, but if the land use ordinance goes into effect, the owners of the Burton Shortstop and Burton Ice House will not be permitted to sell those properties a la carte, thereby reducing their ability to get the maximum profit from their investment. A civil rights lawyer could sue the city under disparate impact discrimination, even if a neutral policy causes a disproportionate and unjustified negative harm to a group, even if that was not the intent. A small lot owner, which admittedly is me, I could allege regulatory taking if my land is thereby cannot be developed on because of setback requirements. And I'm going to be very careful on this very next statement. I am not making this allegation. I am just saying that based upon comments made by Mayor Buck in the past, somebody could come to the conclusion that she is using her power to keep from land being constructed across from her house. I am not making that allegation. Nobody knows what's in her head, but I don't want us to pay for a lawsuit on our dime. The last thing I'll say is, City Council, when and if these lawsuits come, are you prepared to take? Thank you.
Sherry Osborne.
Well, I sound very ill prepared based on other people's statements, but I just wanted to say that I live right in the middle on North Main, across from the Cotton Gin, where they have festive performances, etc., as well as the pavilion. I've never really had any concern with any noise issues, and I like to see the liveliness of the city and the community. Additionally, we have a property that backs right up to the Shortstop that is a rental, an Airbnb. We have yet to have any complaints at all about the music that people get to enjoy ambiently from staying on our property. Sorry, Kathy, they don't spend any money there that I know of. But I just want to say, I feel that I'm in the middle of it. And additionally, I'm right at the corner of Mulberry and North Main, where the 18-wheelers gear up. So I've got noise, but I feel like we can live harmoniously, without the ordinance at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck?
I'm Chuck Johnson. Several meetings back, I asked about tax raising. The new water was not going to raise our taxes, but then it's going to raise our taxes because we're not sure we can make it. And I hear we've got $100,000 to $400,000 cash sitting somewhere. I'd like to know what the new noise ordinance cost us. Who prepared it? I'd like to talk to them because I don't know everybody's got these meters running around checking everything. Who's going to do it? We cannot enforce the one we have now, period. We're going to hire a company out of Fort Worth to come tell us we're becoming Burton HOA. I don't like Burton HOA. I'd like to be a part of this city, not being told exactly what I'm going to have to do and cost me $700 and something if I want to do something to my house. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are just signatures.
Can I say one other thing? Did you get 3 bids for the gentleman? For your city?
Questions. There's some other signatures on the sheet. Oh, there you go. Or on the next page. Susie Keel.
Hello, everybody. Mayor, council people, other citizens. I think everybody's done a good job of expressing concerns about some of the items tonight. First one, I'd like to talk about the AOKA bid or contract that's on the table, I feel like we should, my recommendation too would be to table that, consider some other avenues, get some other bids, and possibly consult with other small local towns like Carmine in terms of what they use, if that's something that needs to be, and have a longer dialogue about what that looks like and what it's gonna cost residents, what those costs are gonna be. I am in the real estate industry, I have been for 20 years, and so I'm very familiar with all of those things as well as, but that's not something that a lot of other people are. And so the transparency of knowing what that's gonna look like in terms of costs for citizens and business owners is critical. Second thing is the subdivision ordinance on the workshop. I did read through all of it, and my concern, again, I'm gonna voice for probably the 5th time, is the protection of our property owners that exist under the town plat from 1870. I know the previous iteration had language in there about the lots being grandfathered that were previously platted under that town plat. That's been removed. And then there's several other things in there that I feel like we really need to be careful about clarifying in terms of lot size. There's still some confusion on setbacks. These are really important things that impact all of us, residents as well as property owners like me. I don't live in Burton, but I own a property. I own 3.5 lots in town. And again, that's my biggest thing, is questioning that, number one, why that's been removed. Because I think that just makes it a little bit confusing for people in town, because when you pull it up on the CAD and you see your property, it might look like one property, but you might have 2 or 3 lots. And I understand that a replat is necessary sometimes, but to clarify what somebody owns and what they have rights to do what they want with would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you all for your comments. I appreciate those. We'll refer to them off and on throughout the meeting. Accounts there. Any questions? Next is the City of Burton income and expense sheet. So you'll see in the month of December, the income was $26,403.70. Expenses were $5,354.79, with a surplus for the city of $21,048.91. Is there anything we need to add, Angela?
As we noticed, the election is on this one. We had one of the clerks never passed their check. So after just some time, I decided to
Okay.
put it back in.
Thanks for the donation.
Yeah.
Water and sewer profit and loss. So the income for the month was $32,121.83. An expense of $26,564.13, with a surplus of $5,557.70. Anything else to add, Angela? You'll see the supporting material there from HDU. Mayor's report. So you'll see that in your packet as well. I do want to highlight, and then I won't need to a little bit later on, the Texas Target Communities. So the BAN, the Biological and Agricultural A&M students, the engineering students who are with us both fall and spring, who are working on the wastewater line mapping at wastewater line near Burton ISD. They've been on break. We did get an email from them today. They're ready to meet again. But we did meet with them right before the semester ended with updates, and they're supposed to be sending us their findings. We have some preliminary learnings with them. related to that wastewater line and whatnot, that I'll need to visit with Mrs. Curry. She here, I'll need to visit with you about that. When we get that in paper, I'll bring that over to you. And then the urban planning students, they'll be here spring of 2026. So I met with the Texas Target Community staff as well as the professor of this class. Last month, I gave you a list of what projects that they can do. And the ask was, so what would you like to see the group focus on in town? That list is again in your packet. You'll see that behind the mayor's report. Is there anything in there that specifically you would like for them to focus on? Or not focus on? We're already doing the wastewater, so we don't need to do that.
So wastewater and storm drainage, that's two separate things, or that?
It's two separate, those are two separate systems. So, right, so there is that. This is, so the top is the seven, core themes they, looked at in Fort Stockton. Historic preservation, heritage tourism, and adaptive reuse. It's identifying redevelopment opportunities tied to cultural heritage. Number 2, mixed-use development, housing and real estate innovation, analyzing zoning barriers and proposing real estate innovations. Number 3, streetscapes and connectivity for multimodal transportation, assessing walkability and streetscape improvements. Number 4, transportation networks, infrastructure and parking strategies, evaluating traffic patterns and infrastructure needs. Number 5 is public spaces and cultural placemaking. It's proposing ways to activate parks and civic areas through cultural programming. Number 6 is economic development, local business support, and community collaboration. It's mapping some income disparities and supporting local businesses. Number 7 is sustainability, resilience, and environmental design. It's creating a master plan for green infrastructure and climate resilience. The other areas of the comp plan is population study, housing, land use, street system study, water system study, wastewater system, and storm drainage system. Although I would caution on the wastewater, wastewater, I'm not sure how many are engineers and what that background is that they have. Right,
Sure.
right.
They're learning.
Yeah, they're
so,
learning,
yeah.
and like our engineers in the biological, bioengineering and agriculture class, that class are engineers, and that's specifically what they're looking at in that wastewater system study, and they're doing that with a professor that is an engineer. And whereas this is an urban planning professor, and that's a total different focus.
Is there a way to maybe, kind of understand the class a little better and kind of going into what you're saying is maybe they really, really like number 6 or number 4 or whatever. Maybe that.
Like what's that wrong?
Yeah, what's your
Right.
strong suit?
Right.
They really-
Yeah, and so
What are
we
they
met,
passionate about?
I have no idea, because I just met the professor in late October, early November, or maybe it was November, because y'all got it in December. And so I just met her. She has no idea who her students are in the
Sure,
spring.
sure.
So they're just starting class. We'll see where they are. I can email her and see, but
Yeah,
I
maybe a
just
quick email just.
for you all, is there any place here in town or any of those things that really pop out to you? Or should we just let them loose in town and have them come back to us with what they're seeing and then talk to them about that as well?
I mean, it'd be interesting to see like number 6, local business support and community collaboration. I would love to understand what that means to them
Right.
and how, what that would look like.
So-
I'd say let them work and see what we come up with.
Right. I'd like to see them, on item number 1, historic preservation, heritage tourism, and adaptive reuse. There's been so much focused on one side of town. I'd like for them to go to South Burton and look around over there, because that is the oldest part of town. Just to see just historically what what information might they have that we could offer, Long Life Brotherhood? I don't know. But we may just let it loose and let them see what they come up with too. But yeah, I'll circle number 6.
I would caution too much of, I mean, I think maybe we're narrow focus, you know,
Oh, sure.
I don't wanna get some super broad that really doesn't address anything.
Agreed. Okay. All right, next is economic development updates. So I did attend that economic development meeting with the workshop with the county commissioners and city of Brenham yesterday. It was a good solid 2-hour meeting. The positive that came out of it, this was the first time the city of Burton has been at a table of economic development. And Judge Gerber pointed that out. They've never had a mayor from Burton sit at the table or start asking questions or be curious about economic development regarding the city of Burton. So I was asking questions on behalf of not just the city, but also the Western Edge. Anyway, it was interesting, and there's a follow-up meeting that I'll be attending with them as well. So I had a meeting with Stephanie Rudloff, who, and I'm on page 2, item 2. Stephanie Rudloff is a county agriculture extension agent, and she is coming out to see how we can partner and offer workshop to residents out in this area of the county. So I connected Stephanie with Burton Bridge Ministry, with Cynthia Carter, so that they can work together and maybe provide some workshops on Fridays with our seniors who do the Senior Friday. She is also doing a kids cooking class during the summer, and so she's going to be exploring what options are out here to offer a cooking class for kids here in town, so that our parents don't have to drive all the way to Burnham for everything, that we could offer something here, and just will continue to brainstorm opportunities there. But I did let her know what kind of venues we would have to be able to, whatever kind of workshops. The one I did mention to her, sitting in the county commissioner meeting when they were talking about, what's the deer disease? Chronic wasting. People were riveted and on edge and asking questions, and that would be a great workshop to have. And we could host it here in town and do something or whatnot, but just to give them a venue to be able to offer some of those things here, I think would be good for us to tie to the larger community. So it was a good meeting. The last thing on that list, I did write that second letter to our RV just to follow up with that ordinance and the RV hooking up to city water and sewer. The person living in the RV called City Hall, and we had a really good conversation, and he agreed to connect the water and sewer per the city ordinance, and I thanked him for following the ordinance. So the process worked. The process that you all put in place whenever that was tucked away and forgotten about, that worked. And so we'll be moving forward on some other ordinance related things as well as we can. Last week I met with Rachel as well down just down the hill, Burton Bridge Ministry, the county, Texas A&M. A&M's got a lot of projects here in town. A&M and the city regarding the medical pod next to the MS. So that is coming to town. We're very excited about that. Just down the hill. So that medical pod will be brought in. Dusty will talk more in a little bit about where you're laying those lines. You're mapping the lines for water and sewer. But they'll be bringing in a container that the students at A&M have refurbished, and it's set up to be a medical pod where people can go to be seen by a nurse, either in person, a paramedic or a nurse in person, or telemedicine. So it's just a spot here in town that will be available that we're excited about. West with the county is coming to check water issues to make sure that drainage is fine for them as well. They won't have any, there was a little concerns, they have to be so close to the culvert, the road away from the helicopter, to get the helicopter more space. So they're gonna double check and maybe build up that berm just a little bit. I told them I hadn't seen water there, even with water well number 5, it would build up and pool, but it would drain out, so. Anyway. And then I have a new meeting with the new fire chief tomorrow as we discuss life moving forward with them. They'll need to check our hydrants, those kinds of things. So that meeting is tomorrow. Angela?
I am, taking an opportunity to take some learning thing here. There was the Texas Municipal Clerks Association is doing an elections seminar, and I'm gonna attend that. And, I called Carol Jackson at courthouse, as you know, Washington County does most of our election, and yet she said it would be a good idea to learn all the stuff, there's a lot changed this last, legislature. And, then the other, do the floodplain management first week of February, and then, we have a seminar to go to on the 29th also.
Thank you. Rachel?
Yes, there were no trash complaints. The water loss is at a 4.84%. The water use survey is due March 1st, and I'm currently working on that. The water loss survey is due May 1st. And like Karen said, I attended the meeting on the new medical pod coming next door. And then I'm also, I didn't put this in because I just learned it today, but I'm also working on a TCEQ steers Tier 2 report, which is like hazardous materials that you have to just report in for TCEQ to know what's going on. And we just have chlorine here, so that's what I'll be reporting on. And that is it.
Thank you. Dustin?
Being the holidays in December, not much. We had on our clarifier at the wastewater treatment plant, there was a gearbox that went out that runs the clarifier. It was a little over 10 years old, so it runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so it's ran a lot. That's been repaired. We had a sewer leak on a force main on a lift station down at the Luchek lift station on 1697. It was right over a gas line, so we had to get the gas company out there to watch us dig over their gas line and get that repaired. Water well is coming along. Everything's in pretty much. We haven't gotten approval, as far as I know, for TCEQ to turn it online, but all of the chemical lines, electrical, everything is in. The controls, it's in. We're just waiting to do a final walkthrough with the contractor and engineer.
What's holding it up? I mean, or is it
And
just?
some of them, they take a big panel of tests, a bunch of things, and the chemical tests
It's
that's
like
in the water.
TCEQ, so they have to do their own set of testing, and so
Yeah,
it's a very
not the
rigorous,
contract, we're waiting on the TC.
Yeah.
So
It's the state.
there's some additional there that I'll
Takes
share in
forever.
just a minute.
Okay. And then just as far as Mayor talked about the medical pod, I'm gonna meet with them Friday just to locate the city's lines. They're gonna be putting their own utilities in. And I'm just gonna show them so they don't tear anything up.
Right.
How big is this pod?
See this yet?
40, right? Is that what they said he did? Was it 40
by
feet?
40 by 60.
It's about 40 feet.
40 feet, right, is that what they said? Yeah, that's what I thought. It's a
Unless you
pretty
make
good
it double
container.
six.
And it'll be permanent structure? I mean, it'll,
They have a,
It's a container. So ideally, and I don't know where the conversations are now, we've been having these conversations since November of 23, when we started with a medical group in Somerville that is no longer, so they had to retool a lot. But ideally, it is, it's container, they'll bring it out and pop it here, and we're kind of a guinea pig. If it works, fantastic, then go get another one and put it out in Old Washington or wherever. If it doesn't work, then take it and go put it in Old Washington, run the experiment over there.
I
So,
think it's great.
right. It's a win for everybody. How they're taking care of payments, I know they're starting with cash, I'm not sure how that's all working, that's on the county to figure out, not on us, because we're not involved beyond making sure they got water and sewer.
they will have a concrete pad though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it won't just be on the
Yeah.
ground.
Oh, these are,
Yeah.
they're doing a concrete pad. So, and it's based on, some, because A&M's been building them out, and sending them out other places. So I think there's one, way way west Texas, near, out by Marfa area, but people, and then in South Texas, a town I had not heard of, they have one there, and they're finding that people are driving, if they can't get into the one close to them, they will drive 45 minutes to an hour to one where they can get in and be seen by a doctor much faster. So they're very useful out west, and so we'll see how that goes for us here.
I worked in one years ago that had an X-ray machine.
Oh, cool.
In the 80s. So we've been around a long time.
Sure. So we're just getting on board with it. So anyway, there's that. In terms of, are you finished? Oh, good. In terms of the water well number 5, so construction is supposed to have been done December 31, and it's done. So they're trying to schedule the walkthrough, and the dates they picked are dates the city hall is closed, and so because it's MLK holiday for city staff. So that has to be rescheduled. So the next thing is the walkthrough, and then BAFCO had to file an extension because they missed a filing somewhere along the way. Like they filed document number 2 without filing document number 1 or something, just something, it's out of order. And so it's just getting that to TCEQ to review, and then they come out and run their test. He filed an extension that goes far beyond probably what we need, but we're hoping that we'll be able to move through pretty quick on all of that. The Canida Lift Station Improvement Project, email popped today that they're wanting to have a pre-construction meeting, so one of those will be taking place soon on that, and we'll be moving forward there. And then I've already given you that Texas Target Communities update. And so let's go back up to consent agenda. So we've heard all of the consent agenda as well as some updates. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a thank you? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Let's move to item number 1. This is a contract with AOKA Engineering for scope of services including but not limited to building plan review, building inspection, public works, civil plan review and inspection, fire protection plan review and inspection, ICC certified training services, facility assessments, and code enforcement services and training. Angela just wrote everything that was down that they do. So they do a lot. Let's go back to some history there. So there's 2 kinds of things that we that I heard in the public comment section, and one is building code and the other is ordinance compliance, and those are 2 very separate things. So ordinance compliance are the ordinances that we pass here, and how people follow those, like the RV, or a dog, the dog ordinance. Dogs must be on a leash, or what else do we have here? Ordinance for substandard and dangerous buildings. Those kinds of things. This is building code, and so I'm gonna hand you something Angela started working on, and she started the history with when she started working here. So it's a history of how you all of like building code. So the first reading of a building code ordinance since Angela's been here, she didn't go back before all of that, was on December the 12th, 2016, with corrections recommended. The next time it came was in January. The second reading was in February, and then the council tabled. A building code ordinance was adopted. This is March 13th of 17. But we do have one on the books that was August the 13th of 2018 is what we have in our binder. Yeah, so it's somewhere in there. They probably tweaked it, made it up to date, whatever it was. And then you'll see there's a discussion in 2020 on the new building code, a new dangerous building ordinance. There's consideration and action, and then it's just removed. It just disappears. More history. I'm gonna drop you down to number D, or letter D. And there's consideration and action to begin the process of hiring a building inspector was approved on 4/10/17. But I don't think anything ever happened with that. And then if you move into when Mayor Zychak was elected in 17, you'll see at letter F, that there was consideration and action on the ordinance reaffirming the substandard and dangerous buildings, and it was adopted. You have the Burton Beautification and Compliance Committee, those are those other ordinances that I was talking about. You turn the next to page 2, go to H, but I want you to drop down to little g. When in 2020, consideration and action to hire Schneider Consulting Services to provide code compliance services, council deliberated on whether to continue with this.
Unfortunately, nobody has that page.
Okay, well, it says, consideration and action to hire Schneider Consulting Services to provide code compliance services. Council deliberated on whether to continue with this item due to Mr. Schneider not being able to attend, but motion to hire was passed on 9/8/2020. And then, so then it got conflated a little bit because Burton Beautification and Compliance Committee, began doing some things, they don't have, they didn't have a qualified person serving on the ordinances for like the dangerous buildings. They didn't have a qualified person doing that, and to walk on other people's land on behalf of the city, you have to have what's called an administrative warrant. They didn't have that. I'm not sure what happened when that puts the city at legal issues. So how was serving on council in 2020? The Schneider, that didn't have, he was hired?
He was hired, but he didn't wanna do the prep things like dogs and yards and he just wanted to, as far as I remember,
He just wanted to do building inspection. But because that it just didn't happen.
If I'm remembering correctly, David, do you remember?
We decided not to continue the services because it was gonna cause a conflict with the people here in Burton.
So there's been attempts, at least in the last 11 years, to deal with building codes. You're passing a newer one. I don't know how old the newest building code is, but that's what we have. We don't have, we have a building code that we do give people to follow. Angela, when people call to build in town, can you kind of walk us through that process if somebody wants to build anything in town?
I tell them the only building code we have right now is that they have to use the most recent international building codes, and that it has to be at least 750 square feet of heated area.
Okay, and that's pretty much it. Council does not get to see any plans, they have no say on what goes on. How does it work, height limits if they wanna build a 5-story building? Nothing, there's nothing. So what about water and sewer? How are water and sewer evaluations done?
For
A new build or a development? How are water and sewer connections done?
They ask for the meter and the connection and they pay for it.
They pay to
Put
hook
it
to
in
it.
and then
We get Dustin to go out there and evaluate to make sure they don't need like a lift station or any extra,
Right.
you know, there.
So that's covered in our water. And then on the requirements, I mean, we don't have any, so if people buy a lot and they wanna put down, you know, how big a lot would be, I don't know, 80 by 80 lot, and they put down cement on 70 by 70, I mean, we don't have any say on how anything goes up here in town. So, the next thing I'm gonna go to, and Mrs. Curry, I know you're here in the room, so this is historically what happened in the past with Burton ISD. In 2000, 2008, there was that's when the elementary school was put in, correct? And so what happened then, the utility needs of the elementary school were brought to council, a council member requested a written proposal, and so that proposal then came back the very within 2 weeks. It came back during it was a special call meeting, and it was utility needs of the elementary school, and so a deal was worked out with the school district in that, well, I'll just read. The utility needs of the new elementary school, this is June 23rd, 2008. After discussion, a motion was made by Councilmember Cockle and seconded by Councilmember Knittel to grant permission to Burton Independent School District to add a 2-inch water meter, install 6-inch water line, to provide fire sprinkler system in the new elementary school, connecting new buildings to wastewater collection system, and allow improvements to Cedar Street to accommodate the increase in traffic. The Burton Independent School District will fund the water line project, and the city of Burton will reimburse 1/2 the cost of the 6-inch water line from the existing line at FM 390 and Cedar Street to the new elementary school. The city of Burton will give a monthly credit equal to 1/2 the school's water sewage usage until the city's obligation is met. And that was, what took care of that at that point in time. So it's, you know, that was the way that deal was brokered in 2008. On the city side, it was put in, but we don't have any engineering, we didn't have any engineers at that point in time to prove any of that. Some of our preliminary findings, I did mention it to Andy, he's the one with the biggest problems. Apparently, we're waiting on A&M for the finals on all of that. But there is a storm sewer tied to the wastewater line, and we've got to deal with that as city and school district. And then we know that city utility easements are running back behind the school property as well, and we need to visit with that. So we've got some things to clear up that were not addressed. Had we had some help, had the city had some help with all of that, we probably would not be having this awkward moment and dealing with these awkward things. But so on the city side, we're failing ourselves with how we're installing, tying to each other as city and school district. I think also there was review in 2022 for the new stuff that came through. That was a special called meeting as well. And some lists. My understanding is that the school engineers brought everything into the city for council to look at. Did on our end, on the city end, do we have engineers look at those plans to see how they would tie in to the city and the impact, and because that was not part of what we did, just because we just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know until it's happened. There was discussion about the wastewater treatment plant is only at 50% capacity. And then we were worried about apparently grease traps within the city and creating a new ordinance requiring clean outs. So we do a fog letter every year to everybody who puts that much grease, like big businesses in the school district. So there is that. Under the new construction going on, the city has been brought fire safety plans. I've mentioned this to you all once before for the school district, because ultimately the city is held responsible and is responsible for those fire review plans for the school district. I have spent time with the Brenham Fire Marshal and the Brenham Fire Chief, because I can't meet with the Fire Marshal without the Fire Chief there, because I'm Burton, not Brenham. And they couldn't check those plans. They passed me on to a couple of state fire marshals, and while the school district has a safeguard with the is it TEA that comes out and inspects you all? Ultimately, no.
We have commissions, right? Well, we have various
Levels to come out and inspect. But on the city side, holding up to our end of being responsible to the school district, of making sure that we're holding up to our end, because if something were to happen, who would get the blame? The city would get the blame, right? So it's important for us to, have people who can help walk us through what we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know until it happens. So there's a lot of that. Sheila? So that's kind of where we are. We don't know what we don't know. And that happens a lot here. So, it would be helpful to, have outside services, to be able to call on for these things. I know we talked about and have on-call engineers, for things here in the city, and we have 2 firms that we use for that, but that's not what those firms can do. This is a firm that does something entirely different. In the process of looking for, somebody who could help us out, Angela found Rocky, or Rocky found, I don't know who found who first. But Rocky, can you, tell us more about AOKA, who you are, what you can, I know you did this last meeting, can you do that again for us today?
Of course. So, Mayor, Council, members of the Burton community, thank you again. My name is Rocky Rodriguez. I'm with AOKA. And AOKA is a mission-driven, third-party provider for plan review and inspection services. We help emerging and rural communities move through the residential, commercial, industrial development projects that come through your pipeline. We do that by keeping the projects on budget, by making sure that the projects are delivered on time, but more importantly, the projects are delivered safely, right? And so AOKA is a public safety firm. And so I know in the traditional sense of public safety, people think fire, they think police, they think EMS, but public safety with regards to building codes. You want the buildings that you occupy as residents, as just a general population, to make sure that they're safe to be entered. And so that's exactly the services that AOKA provides, primarily plan review and inspection services. We help over 70 communities across the state, everything from major metropolitan communities to rural emerging communities. And so, part of what I heard are some of the things that AOKA faces on a daily basis. Cities across the state face various and different challenges, right? AOKA has the team and the skill set to make sure that we address those. And so, if I could just really quick, I'll talk about our team. We've got an elite team of professionals. We have 12 master code professionals. There's a total of 1,000, roughly about 1,000 master code professionals across the world. AOKA has 12, so we've got more than 1% in our firm. We've got a total staff of about 60 employees, so we are a fairly small firm. We are headquartered in Fort Worth, Texas, but we have regional offices in Dallas, we have a regional office in Houston, and we have a regional office in San Antonio that serves, right, the majority of the state. Each of our staff, we include 30 plus inspectors and plan reviewers, and on average they have 18 years of experience. We primarily provide building code, fire code, planning and zoning, civil, health, and code enforcement professionals. Those professionals are all certified, so they meet the most stringent standards, whether that's a master plumbing certification, whether that's a master electrician certification, whether that's just a building code professional certification through the ICC, which is how it's the organization that basically delegates the compliance, or making sure that the compliance is held by people that hold those certifications. And so all of our MCPs are ICC certified. One of the things that we offer by having those 3 regional offices is we do have a local presence. And not only do we serve as a true partner in the communities that we serve, right, but we do offer on-site inspections. We also offer virtual inspections through our platform. We've developed a software system that allows us to perform inspections on demand. And so that becomes key if you have an emergency inspection that needs to be handled after hours. Right, you have a licensed inspector on one end, and you either have the applicant or the contractor on the other end, and we're able to handle that inspection virtually. And typically where that comes into play is where you have some kind of meter change out, maybe it's a water heater, something that's done after hours, and somebody needs to get a service connected, and so that's when the virtual inspections come into play. We also offer industry-leading inspection and plan review service turnaround times. So again, I talked a little bit about same-day emergency inspections. Most of the inspections are standard next-day services. I talked a little bit about the virtual inspection and how we use our platform to do that. With regards to plan reviews, there's a lot of bottleneck typically. That's where a lot of communities will experience projects not moving through the process quite as swiftly. And so AOKA actually guarantees 5-day plan reviews for any projects under 5 million, anything over 5 million, 10 days. And typically if it's over $10 million, right, we communicate clearly about what the expected timeline should be. One of the metrics that we measure ourselves against as an organization is how well are we doing with those timelines. And so even though we guarantee 5 days for anything under 5 million, we come in at 3.2 days. So even beating our own standard. For anything over 5 million, where we guarantee the 10 days, we've been coming at 8.3 days. And so again, right, we're even beating our own standards in terms of turnaround times. So what I talked about, just a little bit, just to recap, we're a true partner, right? Most importantly, we fuel safe growth, right? We help making sure that we are building the relationships within the community, whether that's with the city itself, whether that's the contractors or the developers that want to come in and build and work within the cities. We make sure that the projects, again, are going through the building code process safely and effectively. And we're there when you need us. So some of the ways that cities partner with us is a service agreement, which I think has been presented for the city of Burton. We're also vetted through buy board, which means that cities can contract with us directly for plan review and inspection services. So the Texas Buy Board is the largest co-op here in the state. We're a member of the Buy Board. Again, the services that we provide are on an as-needed basis, right? There are no long-term contracts, there are no long-term commitments, right? There are clauses in there that if the city wants to exit the agreement, they can do so. And so, again, our mission is to help and aid cities through the planning and development process and make sure that things are moving through the pipeline swiftly. And so with that, any questions if you have, I'd be more than happy to answer.
So can you tell us about what communities you have served?
Yeah, so here locally, we've got the city of Belleville, not too far away. We have Crockett, we have Hedwig Village down in the Houston area, we have Jersey Village, we've got a small community called Danbury, we have Harris County as one of our primary clients here in the local Houston region. The Houston region is one of our fastest growing regions throughout the entire company. And so we're looking forward to hopefully adding the city of Burton to that list. But we serve, again, communities throughout the DFW area, South Texas region, and so, again, we've got a pretty extensive list, and I know we provided some references that we've welcomed you all to call and check in on us about not only our services, but our team and our turnaround times, our communication.
So, in an email to our city attorney, I did mention that you all, because I contract with you all to help with a review, and he had commented that he had not worked with you all, but had heard good things about you all.
Okay.
So that we know that just through legal. So, council, do you have any other questions?
So, I have a few. So, you said something about hot water heaters. So, now we haven't even talked about scope, but if I want to change out my own hot water heater, which I've done a few dozen times, I'm assuming now I would have to get a permit and get inspected.
That would be dictated by your local city ordinances, right? So again, we help cities draft and write ordinances in terms of providing oversight.
Yeah.
but it's really dictated upon the ordinance and how the ordinance is written. All we help do is help the cities enforce those ordinances from a public safety perspective.
So I think the scope that we're looking at is something much larger in terms of new build.
Well, I think that would help clear up a lot, because, you know, I wanna build a greenhouse in my backyard at some point. I already have these old windows and a bunch of things. It's gonna be about 12 by 12 or something like that. It will have some water in there and, some electricity, so when I turn a light on, am I gonna have to pay $700 to have that inspected? Am I gonna have to pay someone to write out plans?
So what are your ordinances right now? You have a book of them as city council member. Is that in any of the ordinances that we currently have?
So y'all only enforce ordinances that we
Yes, ma'am.
have.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
not, you're not just randomly showing up at a business or someone's house
No.
to check their water heater.
No.
Is that correct?
That is correct, that is correct, right? And just to address the fee schedule, right, the fee schedule is standard throughout the state for the most part, right? Different regions vary just a little bit, but we provide that, so there's full transparency, clear transparency with exactly what our services cost. And again, it's on an as-needed basis. We have some cities that use us for the full suite of our services. We have some cities that only use us for a very small portion of services.
Yeah, so if we don't have anything now, then we would need them.
It's about new builds.
So
It's about, it's
But is
about
there-
being able to have somebody on call to, when the fire people from the school district bring their plans to the city and drop them down and go, here you are, and they're on us, that we have somebody that we can call
Sorry,
to have that person,
staring at my golf ball.
to have a person review them, because we don't have that option right now.
So, Ms. Curry, thank you for being here. When your school has all those plans drawn up, is that not reviewed with the state or other inspecting bodies of any kind, or is it just that company is following, the company that's doing those things is following all the rules that they have to follow?
Initially, and correct me, just one thing, the company follows the procedures that are in place. And throughout that, the building or before the building, there are layers of inspection that will come in, kind of throughout, but they're required to.
I would imagine getting a bond and it being part of the state, that kind of thing. I imagine there's a lot of rules and red tape and things, you know, because I personally don't think that the city should govern the building of a school. I don't think that's in the scope of this town,
Nope.
even remotely.
Fire standards we're responsible for. And we're failing, I think where the city's failed in that water agreement that was made. And as a taxpayer, I'm already paying, the school bond tax to have that school hooked up to city water. But the decision made by council also makes me pay the other direction as one of 300 people here in town to pay another tax to be able to have that city, to have that connection done. And then who inspects? How, at that point in time, there was nobody there to inspect. Is this stormwater sewer dumping into the wastewater sewer? Because those are two different systems. They should never mix. So.
Well, Andy knows they
Andy,
mix.
how's that mess?
Yeah.
So I think for us to step up and have engineers that we can contact when we run into situations, so that we as a city have, or just a resource to go to, would be helpful for us if we have questions about, because, I mean, it's above our pay, I don't get paid, so it's above my pay, all of it's above my pay grade. But trying to find a better way, for the city to function and be responsible to our residents, to be responsible to people who are building, to make sure we don't have shady contractors coming in, that there's something in place to help protect, residents, from being taken advantage of, that we're holding people to public safety and holding contractors accountable for that. I remember one story in our visit, Rocky, you, because you're working with Belleville, can you share the story about the Belleville's incident with the hail, I don't know if you remember the big hailstorm that came through. Can you kind of talk about AOKA's involvement with the city of Belleville and that hailstorm and the impact on town there?
Sure, just being able to get the city back up and running. One of our services that we provide are emergency preparedness services. And so if, you know, in fact, you would have a natural disaster or something come through, right? We are able to help the cities get up quicker and faster. Get people back in, get students back into schools, get people back into homes, get people, business owners back into their buildings by making sure that they're safe to occupy.
Right, but so specifically with the city of Belleville and that hail, they had, roofing contractors show up.
Correct.
And AOKA met with the city council and helped them draft an ordinance so that roofers, contractors coming to town had to be permitted through the city to make sure that the residents were being protected from those who would take advantage.
That is correct, right. They had presented us with, wanting to make sure that they were protecting the interests of the local community. Unfortunately, right, in the roofing industry, they're called kind of fly-by-night roofers, and they come from different states, different areas, they're not local. And so, you know, fortunately, sometimes there's some trust issues. And so the city wanted to make sure that they were protecting not only themselves as a city, but more importantly, the residents. And so they had an ordinance written, drafted. We helped to some extent with that ordinance, but ultimately it was at the discretion of council to pass that ordinance. We just helped enforce it.
But they're not local either, so.
Well, so I think one of the main things is there's a lot of, I mean, looking at this, there's just so much in there, and I realize it's everything you do, so I get that part. And I completely agree that if someone, like the big plans we saw for the school, someone comes in there and throws that on the desk, cool, I think it's neat, but I don't know a whole lot about it. So if we, you know, I think we need to develop some type of scope of what this would entail and make sure it doesn't creep into other things before we enter any kind of agreement with someone.
So in terms of, Angela, can you help with that? I mean, this is just the master services agreement that we have with you all. How does that narrow down if we have use? Is it just an email that we have this need and we work through, walk us through that?
Sure. So typically, right, there's communication that happens on both ends. We've again, as a company, have established our metrics. And so one of the things that we do to make sure that we have a local presence is we require our chief building official, who's our regional manager of the Houston office, Houston division, to make frequent stops through the cities that we serve, that he serves, that are particularly or specifically under his guise. And so that's one way, obviously, that we continue to provide that local presence, right? Even though you may not have anything going on as a city, we're still coming by and checking on you, right? Making sure that we are your eyes and ears. We're in the community, right? We will come back to City Hall and say, hey, we just wanted to see if there's anything that we could be of assistance. We don't charge the city. There's no fee for that, right? We're just that true partner. In terms to answer your question, just more directly, the communication is there though. So if we are not here and you needed some kind of service, an email, a phone call will suffice. And again, right, we will schedule a time to meet and review whatever it is that you need us to review on your behalf. And again, we do have a full suite of services that we provide.
So it'd be an on-call engineering services for things far above what we are able to understand and comprehend, like the fire suppression systems. But we just don't have staff for something like that.
So we don't have anybody in Washington County that's an inspector. They can come and do the same job anyway.
No, so the person who does that, for the city of Brenham is the fire marshal, and we don't have a fire marshal in Burton. And we don't have a fire marshal in the county. They're working on a job description to hire, but there's
Has there been 3 bids for this job?
There are public comment.
So, in answer to the questions, the question was asked for 3 bids. No, because we were needing a vendor. And so we looked for a vendor. I think there's one other vendor, as I was looking through some notes, that came up was Veritas. And those are 2. That's all I got, is 2 vendors that would do something like that.
Could put a
We
bid
do
out
not
for
have-
me to find out.
Council, any other questions?
I would like to address the 82 people behind me to, and open up the floor for just a brief second to, I mean, if we wanna get this, talk about this, I think we need to be able to talk about this.
So I would like to see a show of hands that you have a question, then I would, okay? Yep.
So firstly, because your inability to find more than 2 vendors means that negates the, obligation of the city to get more than, the 3 bids?
So Angela, we know of 2 companies between us.
Small towns, I've found it very hard to find companies that want.
But again, that negates your obligation to get the 3 required bids by the state.
Don't
State
think-
requires you to get 3 bids for,
Sure. So
Yeah, sure.
we didn't have 3 bids for our on-call engineers.
No, but there's a different point with that though, because Buy Board has already vetted and already gotten bids. And if you're on Buy Board, they've already been legally vetted by the state.
okay.
So,
So second of all, who pays for their services? It's contracted on call,
It's on-call.
so the city has a cost?
no.
The city has no cost at all?
No. Because whoever, if there's a situation that they're needed, the fee would apply and
The fee applies to the
to the
consumer?
construction company that has to have it done.
What about the Vertex plans software? What's it, I see there's a
Fee schedule of
fee,
$1,000
and then depending on, how does that work?
So the Vertex Plans platform, it's a digital permitting, plan review, and inspection software, right? We offer that free of cost to the cities. And so, what that is a permitting management system that allows you to store your permits, to track the status of your permits, to track the status of your projects, not only from the plan review stage, right, but through the permitting stage and eventually on through the inspection stage. All the inspection reports are done real time, and so those reports are available online, not only to the city, but to the applicant, whether that be a resident or a contractor, and to AOKA. So it's kind of a 3-portal system that we use. But the biggest benefit is it's online, it's real time, and it enables that collaborative communication that's required in a lot of these building projects, right? It's keeping everybody abreast real time of what's going on.
So these fees here for the different basic, intermediate, or advanced level, that wouldn't apply to us, or no?
So again, I know that's the term, right? The terms and the conditions in the service agreement that's laid out before you. But we would waive that $1,000 fee for the city of Burton. Yeah, you can write that down.
Mrs. Curry?
I don't necessarily, well, I guess do have a question. You know, speaking on the licensing or I just received the other day a email from the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, because they have not received the inspection for the building. And so someone is keeping track as far as the building, because we pay for multiple fees. And so I wanna make sure that everyone knows that district, there are laws and requirements that they have to do. And I just don't want it, I hear it, but I'm just making sure we're clear. This is not based on because the school district was building, you know? And that's the way it's it has come across. But I just wanna say that we are making sure that we are in compliance, because it would not do us any good
Right.
if our kids are not safe and our staff are not safe. But, we do have multi-levels
Yes.
of inspection that's required for us. And so my question would be, we pay these fees, to, our company to, you know, to bring you the plans, to give the plans to wherever they're supposed to be. If you were to come out, you would charge us additional fees, or would you ask us for the plans or the reports that we need? How would that work?
Yes, ma'am, yeah, just to set the record straight, so typically, right, a school district, would hire a general contractor. We're a third party to those general contractors, just like we are to the city, right? And so we perform those services on behalf of general contractors as well, right?
Even
Now,
though we have one already.
It would not impact, it would not impact.
Okay.
You don't need them.
Okay.
If you already have one.
We should be.
But your fires, that's on the city, and we don't have the ability to even
I
replace.
understand. You're right. I'm not.
We don't have anything in place, and so we're failing you all for not holding our, to our end of the bargain. We're relying on your second layer to cover,
Right.
not the first layer, which is the city. But it's still, if something happened, well, did the city inspect? Did the
You're
city
not being a
do-
new build.
So,
The county requires us, Shortstop and other restaurants, to have their fire suppression system and their fire extinguishers inspected twice a year. I pay for that inspection already, so then am I again gonna have to have this company come in and pay for another inspection?
have-
Same thing with the health
Jeff,
inspector.
right,
we have that
Jeff,
also.
do we have ordinances in your notebook on what's being asked about in terms of health safety? To us, that's a state thing, we don't regulate health safety. So your question about fire inspections, do we have ordinances on the book, Nathan, about fire safety? So that's not an ordinance we have, and that's not one we can enforce,
Okay,
but the county does.
okay.
Yes.
Just making sure it's not something else that I have to come up
Well,
with.
she's been waiting longer than I have, so please let her talk.
Rocky, how long have you?
I've called on Alicia back here,
Okay,
sorry, I didn't use the
I
name,
appreciate it,
Alicia.
thank you. For your company, you reference virtual and platform software as a big component of how you have 24-hour service and fast turnarounds and commitments. If you look at your org charts and your corporate photos online, you have more staff in India than you do in the United States. So what is the process if I need an inspection that's on demand and it's getting sent to someone in India? What is their expertise on the building code and zoning requirements here that certifies them to be the one who reviews for my building?
That's a fair question, right? First of all, let me address the first half of that, right? Our majority of our staff is here US based. Our software team, some of our software team is based overseas. It's not uncommon in anything when it comes to technology. As far as the inspectors, the plan reviewers, and the professionals that we have, you have to be ICC certified, right? Or have a certification, whether you're a master plumber, a master electrician, a certified fire inspector, a certified health inspector, right? There's certifications and credentials that they each have to have by different governing bodies throughout, not only the state, but in a lot of cases, federal. And so again, all of our professionals carry those credentials. And that's the one thing that, you can rest easy knowing that the projects that are getting done on behalf of the city would be getting done by certified professionals.
Well, they're paid for by the property owners themselves, those fees are going to be paid by the owners, not by the city for those inspections, correct?
The fees for our certifications?
No.
For the inspection.
The requirements they now get with, on top of.
Again, I'm gonna be very transparent, right? That has nothing to do with us in that regard, that has to do with the city's ordinances.
If we have an ordinance.
If you have an ordinance that
right?
requires that, that's where that would be applicable.
So,
Got it.
Angela, to further answer that question, so it would be, if the people, there's an ordinance, so we have a building code ordinance
Well,
that,
if y'all remember, most of y'all were around when we did the building code ordinance the first time, and it had a whole lot of detail in it, and it would have required inspections. But when we don't have a way to do any type of, new build inspections or anything, then yeah, the cost would usually come from the person needing that inspection. That's how.
right.
Yeah.
Which is fair, I own a construction company, I believe in good ordinances for building safety.
So,
And that's not my question in alignment with this. I think the gap is that you're hearing from many of your community members. We have lack of clarity of what this ordinance will actually put on top of our properties. And it is really unnerving to feel like there would be and now vendor come in, that we have fees put on us with lack of clarity on exactly what ordinances you're asking them to participate in, exactly what fees that would translate to in our real world experience as property owners, and what risks that would actually create for the city in the lack of transparency. And I think the slowdown that most of us are asking for, Mayor Buck, is that we would like to see those answers before it's just, look at a great company. I believe in technology and I believe in advancement, but this is lacking a lot of clarity. And the information we do have is causing more confusion than clarity.
So specifically, we're looking at building ordinances?
Well, you know, when, I mean, the purpose of the land division, subdivision, whatever you wanna call it, is mainly for new builds. Everything that's, you know, that, I thought we had that nice and explained, but maybe not. We're not out to get the people of town. You know, we're not trying to cause more harm, we're just trying to make sure that Somerville's code enforcement officer came in the other day and she sat here at this table and told us horror stories that happened prior to them having any regulation. Like, a person comes in and builds their building to their property lines. There's no, can't do anything about it, and we're at that point right now. And that's why I think Mayor Buck has been trying to get protection for our property owners by putting something in place that we can, but we can't do that until we have a way to enforce it. Because to charge permit fees, which would only be basically a pass-through to the person doing the permitting, I mean, you know, we can't really do anything with anything to advance the city into today's world without having a way to enforce what we put into action.
And how is enforcing that before you have water, sewage, and roads solved the right stuff?
So, we have been working, so, taking a lot of heat for a problem that's 12 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we're getting it done, and we'll have our second water well. That's why I'm here, why I ran, because there was more concern about bushes in the city park than it was a water well. 12 years. Okay?
Bullshit.
So, we've got that water is done, okay? Sewer, water. We just replaced all the water lines in South Burton. Wastewater. We have A&M students coming in and doing a study and mapping everything and putting it on a GIS for us that we have access to. So, we've got wastewater.
We don't even know where some of our lines are.
So, and we have,
There's something.
yeah, so in terms of wastewater as well, we have Dustin, who is here and can give us how much, you know, the capacity and whether or not we can handle growth on that. We have A&M students looking at our wastewater treatment plant and handling growth on that. And we have, Texas Rural Water, Texas Rural Water comes out and helps us with wastewater as well. So we're not without vendors and expertise, vendors with expertise to do that. We also just paved roads that should have been paved a long time ago, finally got those paved with the county this year, and have to get together the plans for what is next and identify those roads for what is next. So we're addressing our infrastructure needs. What we are is addressing the other infrastructure needs that we have been lacking on for quite some time. Barbie.
I do have some, just general questions. Is there a time frame of once y'all do decide, you know, company, right? Because y'all wanna do that first, right? Before y'all apply any like ordinances, is there a time frame that all of y'all have maybe discussed of when y'all would get together to get those ordinances actually on paper? And would the public be able to be involved in some way, or to hear, you know, where these ordinances are coming from, or to get clarity, or to see, like, you know, your position on that?
Right, so I think the first thing, I mean, we've tried some things ahead of time, but to have a company to assist us with what we don't know is probably more helpful than plowing forward and hoping for the best. So we're hoping to have engineers on call for us to sit and go, okay, so now what's the next step? How do we need to tweak this ordinance? How old is our building code? What comes next after that? This is all part of urban planning and preparation and setting up that infrastructure for, as we move forward. A lot of what we do here at the city, I don't know, did you have this skill set when you took your job?
No.
Yeah, so we're all learning, and we know that we have to have extra help us learn and do what needs to be done. We just have to access that, and this is a vendor who can help us with that.
Right, and I'm with you on that, and I think a lot of us here have the same, we all care. We're all here because we care and we're very passionate about it. But I think clarity in communication leads to understanding. And because we all care, we should give each other the time to hear where we're coming from and to get clarity. So we can be on the same page. We're not gonna agree on everything, but there's some fundamental things that we can agree on, and I think that's what we need to focus on.
Right.
But communication and clarity is where we got it.
One thing I wanted to ask, Burton and Belleville ain't the same size.
Right.
You haven't told us a single small town, because we are a itty bitty town. So, where,
Yeah.
what's your smallest town?
So we work with towns less than 100 people, right?
Okay.
And again, some of the challenges that towns of those sizes face are wind growth or wind development, right? Is knocking on their doorstep, and they don't have a plan in place. What is it that they do? Where do they turn? Who do they turn to? Right? That's where AOKA comes in. Is we help those rural emerging communities, right? That's when I spoke earlier in the introduction and talked about AOKA being a mission-driven company. That's what we are, right? Our goal, our mission is to help communities just like Burton. These challenges that you're facing are not uncommon. I hear the same story when I visit city council meetings, on a weekly basis. I was at one just last night, and it was the city of Midway, another fairly small community just on the other side of 45, the other side of College Station. And so, and again, similar situation where there's a possibility of a developer coming in, building a subdivision, and they just need some help, right? Who to turn to? And again, we're only gonna call upon when called upon, right? And so,
Yeah, so I appreciate it. It's so, Andy, it is, and you work for the city of Brennan, it is hard, because you're getting pounded no matter what you do, you're getting pounded. And so all we're trying to do is give another resource base to the city, so we have yet another partner in what we do, to help make the city a stronger and better, safer place.
Yeah, well, it's like with anything, you have to have rules in place because people will do anything.
Kinda like
I
that
know all
data
about
center in Britain. We don't even have a say if one can come here or not.
Yeah.
So y'all think of that, if a data center came here, the city of Burton has no say so at all.
Anything like that. And back, David?
On the processing fee,
Oh, yeah.
does the city receive a percentage of the process, permit fees, or is it all for y'all, or?
No, well, it depends again on how the ordinance is written, right? We don't have any control on the fees that are charged. Typically, we charge, depending on the ordinance, right? We have a percentage-based fee where we do our services, or we provide our services for a percentage of that fee that the city charges, right? Just depending on what that fee is, and how it aligns with our fee schedule. And so really that just depends.
So far, y'all don't know what the fee is?
No, because the ordinance hasn't been written, right? So what we presented was just our standard master fee schedule.
Okay.
And Angela's
And
looked at some
everything
of
I
that.
found out from other cities is they usually just, it's a pass-through with maybe a few percentages added to cover administration costs for the city. And it's usually paid for by the developer or by whoever has the issues.
Chuck?
Okay, you're talking about having building codes, correct?
Yep, we already have a building code. It's
Okay.
the international
So
building code.
storm comes through and takes my roof off. You're gonna charge me a permit to have my roof replaced.
Do you have to get a permit now to have your roof replaced?
I don't know, I didn't realize we were gonna have this.
We do not, does anybody had to apply for a permit to have
Yeah,
their
I'm
roof
responsible.
replaced here in,
I'm responsible to find a contractor that will do my roof. Do I have to pay him?
no, Chuck?
Not yet,
Not yet.
Correct.
not
Not
yet.
Not yet.
It's coming.
I think that's
Yeah,
where
they had
the
done
questions
ordinances
come
and
from,
stuff.
the lack of clarity is that we don't know which ordinance are affecting this. And I think maybe if we just had a list of the ordinances, then we would understand more clearly which ones are going to affect us. I think that's all we're asking for.
So that is something moving forward, Kathy, that we have to work with, because we're reviewing ordinances that are 26 years old.
Got it.
Your building code ordinance is 2018, so it's 8 years old at this point. So everything that was done has to be reviewed, and we have to have a process to walk through that. But we also have to have help in reviewing the ordinances to see what things have changed since the last ordinance came through.
Sure.
So we're at the initial stage of trying to figure all that
And
out.
all we're trying to do is get the information because we don't know it. And that's it. That's why we're here.
Ned?
Aside from our city secretary, I don't think anyone in this room is fully support for this plan. Not one person, except for perhaps the mayor, I guess. And she doesn't live in the city, so she's never gonna pay the fee. What I would like to point out is that
Wait,
Alicia.
did you say the mayor doesn't live in the city?
Angela.
I don't.
I beg your pardon, Angela.
You know,
So Alicia comes in and
some of
wants
these
to
people
improve
don't
the
live in the
Orbeez.
city.
Yeah.
Alicia comes in and wants to improve Orbeez, and that's so it's a significant building, okay? Where's the accountability? She has out-of-town people that she has to report to. The city has no accountability in that relationship. This is a very odd circumstance.
Hey,
This is
Ross.
your governing
Say,
body.
Ross.
But at the end of
Ross,
the
I'm your neighbor. I'm getting tired of hearing that. I'm getting tired of hearing.
Mr. Winkleman,
cutting
you
you
can't,
down.
you just.
It's ridiculous.
I'm okay, Larry,
It's
thank you,
ridiculous.
just sit down, please.
Maybe the sheriff should take him out.
Yeah.
And that,
Just sit down, please.
or Nathan yell at him like he did me.
So,
Larry.
Ned, you were saying?
Right.
So the people moved to this town knowing that there was no building inspector, there was no enforcer in town, and they've stayed. So I just don't see where the harm is. We're creating a problem, looking for a solution here, and there's no need to do that. That's the end of the day. I just don't see how this is an essential service that the city should be focused on with everything else we've got to do.
The lack of priorities here have left us in this position, so we're trying to play catch up for.
So a lot of, a lot of how we move forward as a city to continue to protect the infrastructure, we just can't, we need to have advisors, to help us with that. So one of the things we're workshopping tonight, is, that subdivision ordinance. So I set up a separate contract, cause I have a Mayor Kitty, to be able to contract, with AOKA. And I set up a contract with AOKA and had one of their, guys review it, one of their engineers. He was a certified planner review it. He really did a thorough job, on that, asked a lot of great questions. Some things I could address straight out, and other things I have to bring to workshop, because it's it's a complicated thing, and it's, the grammar things I can take care of, but the technical language stuff and clarification is beyond my scope, and I need a city planner to be able to do that. That's not something any of us sitting at the table have a degree in, and so we have to access, assistance when those things are brought to us. So as we move forward and set up that infrastructure and to protect the city, to protect, our water, our sewer, and what might happen, and how we continue to develop, we just need assistance to be able to do that.
I think several people that made citizen comments said the same thing.
that we're asking for a moratorium on all this until you bring the community together at the table to discuss what we want the future of Burton to look like. You're making decisions that are gonna affect the future of Burton, and I think the community should be involved. The business community, all of the organizations, we should all have a voice at the table. And railroading this through shows that you are not interested in that. So I would like the council to consider stopping all of this right now and voting for a moratorium until a community, it's the council's decision here, I'm sorry.
It is, but it's also not on the agenda.
But
It's not on the agenda.
then table everything. I would vote, I would ask if somebody would do that, because you care about the community, right? You don't wanna look at your friend's face and see the damage you've done to their business because of these outrageous fees and stuff.
So, your question has to do with fees on businesses.
Now, my question is, why can't we just table all this until there is a town hall meeting or a place where we can all come to the table and discuss what the future of Burton is gonna be like? I would wanna live in a community where I'm cared about, that my business is a priority, that the voices that are represented right here never feel heard. By evidence of, you send out the package on Thursday at 5 p.m., you close at Thursday at 5 p.m., the office isn't open on Friday, so we have a whole weekend that we can't ask questions about this stuff.
So Angela, can you talk us through the timeline?
No, I don't wanna hear that. I want
We need
a
some
table.
clarification on that. Can you talk about the packages and when they go out?
Legally, I have to post the agenda on Wednesday, cause I just changed it in the legislature, so it has to be a full it's 3 now? It moved, cause I used to do it on Thursday, now I have to do it on Wednesday. And I don't always have all of the information together by the end of day on Thursday. And so I get it all together and I send it out.
Just asking for the council to consider tabling all this until community involvement.
Okay. Okay. This is probably just really simplistic, okay? I just don't have that mind of an engineer. But I would like to see that we maybe do an ordinance, because we said, Angela, you said right now, all we could build a 750 square foot house on our property, and there's no ordinance to watch what it is, right? And that's it, right?
And your neighbor could do whatever they
Right,
they
okay.
want to.
So I'm
Property
just thinking to myself, why don't we start with that first? Like, let's get something like that in place, because
get something
well, like, so that I don't build in my backyard a 2-story building that's obtrusive to Susie, or, you know what I'm saying? That-
Well, that's why we've tried to put this,
But-
land division, subdivision, to put some
I'm-
parameters
Okay,
around that.
And I get that, but I'm just saying, and I'm not saying no to him, I'm just saying that let's just simply start something with our own, with homeowners, that they could do, that David can go and build his own little,
So that's
Right, or-
that's what the next thing in the workshop is.
okay,
later
just,
tonight.
I'm just trying to figure out, you know, because I'm thinking, you know, Johnny's my neighbor, there's a lot between us, and, you know, I certainly don't wanna do I wanna be a good neighbor.
Right.
And so I don't want to do something she doesn't want to look at. So I think we need to start with something small and have, I think homeowners and that kind of stuff needs to be different than what he does. He's too much for me. Because, well, Rocky, no, I don't mean it like that, but just let me tell you something. The backside of my house flew off. I got a reputable guy to come out. He gave me a bid. He fixed it. I had to have an inspector. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how you do it. Your roof, you know, the Westerfelds have been in business I'm going to get them to do my roof. So I'm just saying, I don't want to really be connected to him. I'm not saying we don't need him. I mean, Rocky, I feel like I'm going to have to take you to lunch tomorrow.
That's okay.
I'm not being ugly. I'm just saying that I don't, right? Am I right about that or am I wrong?
I agree with you.
Yeah, so what we've tried and with the subdivision ordinance, so even to get, I had to consult with them to get help with the subdivision ordinance that Paul and his team worked through. And
Okay.
so, to have them review it. So we do, and that's part of the workshop.
Okay.
But to add that extra layer, I sent it off and had people who do this as their job to look
Yes.
at it and then bring it back. So, and I have their critiques on it. And so, and everything we do is a work in progress. It you know, including some of the ordinances. If it works, great. If it doesn't, let's change that. Nothing's written in stone here. It's all on paper. So, it
Yeah.
just, but it's hard when we know we don't have protections for our residents, people who live outside of town. How many people live outside the city limits? Raise your hands. If you do not live inside the Burton city limits, raise your
I do.
hands. So you all have protections in place. And the county has protections for you in place. The city of Burton has no protections. None of us as residents have protections. And so that is part of what the county's subdivision or land division ordinance. There are rules for you. It's a big old manual and they're reviewing it right now. Pay attention and go to those workshops. So you all have rules and have safety things, but here in the city, we have nothing.
We don't have rules and safety over where I live. We have permits if we want to add on to our house. We do just like what you're going to do here in the city of Burton. When your contractor comes out or a home builder, they're going to need a permit. And now all that has to be inspected and approved. But most definitely, I definitely do not want my area to turn into a homeowners association. And that's what's going on in this city.
No, this is not homeowners association.
But it's just, you're going along the lines of that.
You all
But we don't have the
already
same
out.
protections. I mean,
Alicia.
I wanna note that I hear you guys advocating and saying we don't know what we don't know. And this is not a community. And as one of your community members, I want to participate here.
Hang on a second. I need y'all to be quiet, please. I can't hear.
I wanna participate with that where I can help. I do have expertise there, and I think you have other community members who do as well. I will volunteer my time to help educate and train and demonstrate and review if that's something that the city is interested in hearing expertise on. I think you have community members that would help create a sensible plan that fits Burton, not an AI or tech-backed plan that fits larger communities like Jersey Village and things like that.
So the workshop, subdivision ordinance that we have that we're looking at is actually from Carmine. It's a local one. It's a local, and it's been reviewed and talked about by our local subcommittee appointed by this council. And that's what we're looking at in the workshop. We are using people who are local and putting them to work.
I don't wanna sound rude about this because I love all the people in this community. But why didn't you pick somebody that was in real estate development, a lawyer in town? Why didn't you pick some of those people to be on the subdivision
I
ordinance?
didn't do that. That was Paul. He brought it to council.
Then why weren't we
Council
invited to go to
approved.
those meetings? I would have loved to heard the discussions.
Well, it's in the workshop today, we're talking about things, those discussions. So, I don't know why you're saying that we're trying to hide something. We're not hiding anything. My goal is to have the city people, like all of you, to input into it through other people. Not, because you only had 3 minutes to get your input, you were upset about that, I understand. So I wanna broaden that, that's what I did. And this has been going on for a while, you know, to
You
broaden
had
that
three people on your
information,
committee.
excuse me?
I had 3 people on the committee, and I think only.
Well, there's
There
only
was
2
4,
actually.
one quit. Okay, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about expertise, I'm like, so I think you might be misunderstanding me. I appreciate that you included citizens too, but where was the expertise on that committee that handles real estate development, commercial real estate, businesses that it would affect? That's what I wanna see. I wanna see people brought to the table that are stakeholders in this community.
We're all stakeholders. in this
Right,
community.
we are all stakeholders, but some of us, like Alicia said, has expertise that we don't have to pay outsiders to come in and do for us.
So,
Well, wait a minute, but they didn't speak.
no, go ahead.
I mean, she gave us plans to look at other communities around it. that were
Angela
small.
gave you,
Yeah,
Angela
Angela
gave
gave that to us. So we looked over it, and then we had meetings together and tried to put something together for the future.
I'm not questioning your
There
intent
was a
or
lot of time
anything,
involved in that.
I
We
just
took
wish
a
we
lot of
would have
time.
included more people with
Yeah.
real estate backgrounds and commercial development. I mean, we
And
have
we're
a
just
lot
trying to
of.
save this town to where it doesn't get too big, and we can still keep
I
the
think we
nature
all are
in.
on the same page with that. I think
And
we
don't
all
want
wanna.
like homes that are stacked up next to each other, and do not want trailer homes. I mean, when these subdivisions that go, I want like there's
I
1 or
think
2
we're all on the
acres,
same
not
page.
just like, you know.
She has a subdivision ordinance where she
Yes,
lives.
I do have a
In
subdivision
this
ordinance.
town.
And plus I own a business too, so.
It wasn't that we just picked somebody who would think like us. I'm trying to think like y'all.
So, oh, yeah, go ahead.
So in other words, cause you was fortunate enough to have a little money that you could.
No, I worked hard for what I had.
Well, whatever.
Wasn't given to
Your
me.
beautiful brick home,
Okay.
then you don't care about anybody living in a mobile home. That's not a decent home, right?
No, I'm not saying that, I just don't want, just a bunch of stuff moving in. You know, like, I mean, if we build a subdivision, I want a nice subdivision. And yes, you can have a double wide trailer house, but we wanna make sure it's all kept clean, and it's nice.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but if it's my property and I know not to keep things clean, and
Right,
that's my
that's fine.
mobile home, then I think as much as my mobile home as you think of your brick home.
Right, I understand that.
See, I just disagree with people calling about keeping the mobile homes out. Everybody's not fortunate enough to build a brick house. We don't have people everybody don't have parents that
I understand
left
that.
them a
Yeah.
fortune.
Right, I understand that.
So, we have to live and let live. We can't have people out on the streets, then what kind of, you gonna have then? People sleeping on the bridges and everywhere, so they can't put their house where they land at.
So even if we were, and we've got community input on a subdivision ordinance that we've been working on, or that has been working on. But even if, Alicia, we bring you to the table and you volunteer your time and all of that, where does the liability lie?
Oh, it absolutely lies with the city, and going with a third-party vendor that has an unclear proposal with fees that get passed on to the property owners and the business owners, that creates risk for the city too. So moving slowly and making really clear decisions versus quickly, and I get that this has been a long timeline, but this specific action is moving fairly quickly with lack of clarity. Moving quickly raises risk for the city.
So, to hire a vendor and then to continue the conversations on how do we do this as the next step, what ordinances are we gonna do? This is step one, to hire a vendor to assist us with this conversation forward.
Which would be very fair. The communication that that's what they're getting hired for has been missing completely. The communication has been, here's our subdivision ordinance complete with grammar mistakes and lack of clarity on things, and we want this company to enforce them. That's what the communication has come across as, whether intended or not. And that might be something where working on our communication standards as a community could help.
So Rocky, as we look at the master services agreement and we move into just hiring you as, hiring AOKA as a vendor, then what's the next step at most cities?
You give us services to provide you, right? And so, now, again, I know we did the subdivision review under a different agreement. But again, it was just to provide standards and best practices.
Right.
At the end of the day, the decision that,
Everything comes back to this table.
right, and you guys will review that in the workshop is dependent upon, right, that committee that you guys have formed. Our job is to do our due diligence in making sure that we are putting standards and best practices in place to keep the city, to keep the liability off of the city in terms of anything that might come about, based on how that ordinance is written or drafted.
Right. So, as we move forward and decide, what ordinance on, let me think of one. Just a different ordinance. Or just to review our building code. So we can contract with you to help review the building code. We've got a basic, but it is last approved in 2018. What has changed since then? And then we've never had permits or an inspector. And so you would walk us through that process of what to do next in terms of, let's update the building code. You're gonna need permits and an inspector, because you can't do any of that without the other. You can't do one without the other, correct? So we could contract with you to start reviewing some of these ordinances as we take our baby steps to move forward. But this governing body decides what that next step is with AOKA. You're not, AOKA doesn't come in and start going door to door and checking to see who installed your water heater.
Not at all.
Because we don't have an ordinance for that.
Nor have we, again, we have a master services agreement, but we don't just turn ourselves loose in the city. We do it at your direction.
Correct. And so if we would have a hailstorm like Belleville did, we could call you in and say, we have a situation we need help with very quickly.
Yes, ma'am. As
And
long
you
as
can
we
help
had,
with that.
yes, ma'am, as long as we had that service agreement in place, right? Where you don't wanna get caught is when you don't have a plan or a service agreement in place and you need those services, your hands are kinda tied at that point.
Right. Any other questions from council? Oh, there's one more comment. I've got a comment here.
I just have a question for clarification. Cause you talked about he's helped you with the subdivision ordinance, and then he would help you with what you needed to do. Is there a fee that the city pays him for that?
You like retainer?
No, he's helped her write the
Yes,
subdivision
I just said
ordinance.
that. Yes, I
And
have
the-
a budget that I can contract with, and so I contract it with to ask a professional to review a document.
So then you're talking about then talking with him on how to look at the ordinances, so then that would also be a fee?
Yeah, it's as needed. If we need that, then
But
we
you
would have
pay
to
him
pay.
for that.
The city would pay him for that.
The city pays him for that, thank
Yes.
you, that was
Yeah,
my
it's
question.
an as needed contract, on an as needed basis.
Okay, thank you for answering.
So how much time was spent on looking at that subdivision?
You can ask her.
The agreement was 6 hours, I can't remember, I'd have to go back. But it was very transparent, it was a transparent process. We were provided the subdivision ordinance to review initially and say, this is how many hours it's gonna take, right, to review the ordinance. And then we provided that back to the city, and again, we charged at that rate. It is very minimal.
Yeah, it was, I signed the check tonight,
It was 2
$680.
hours by building official and 4 hours by planner.
$680. So it was
$680.
6
Wow.
hours for professionals, a lawyer's $200 an hour.
And you're spending a lot of money on that too.
Well, I mean, I think it's important, I'm not saying that we don't necessarily need you. I'm saying now that there's been some clarification, I don't want undue expenses coming towards the city that people don't need. I do like the idea of having, as opposed to necessarily a committee of people that may or may not have experience, I would rather pay someone $120 an hour to help us come to a much better conclusion. But I do think it's important that we do have some type of written scope of what this company will do. It needs to be in writing, so everybody can understand, this is what we're asking for you to because I do like the idea of if a tornado comes through here and rips everybody's roofs off, and all of a sudden 82 different roofers start showing up. I
The menu, and we get to choose in here.
I mean, I would suggest that we have something in writing, that we table this for next time, and we have, come to the next city council meeting and have something in writing that says, we're gonna enter an agreement with these guys, and this is what the city council has said that they are allowed to do.
Is that one way to do it, or can we do a master agreement and then at the next city council meeting create the list of things, or do you want to do it all at once?
I mean, again, that's more of a question for the council, right? But those are our boundaries. We will not do anything outside of that master.
Well,
service
there's a
agreement.
lot in there.
No, I
There's a
understand.
lot
I understand.
in there that-
But in terms of protecting the city, and this is something we are adamant on as a company, is we do not go outside those boundaries for legal reasons and liability
Well,
reasons.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if somebody decides to create some rules or something, I think it would make the city folks here, all bunch of them, feel much better that here's a very narrow scope that you can follow.
And if I could, just to answer that, right, that's the full transparency that I talked about in my presentation. That's the full transparency with Mayor Buck that I gave her. When she presented services specifically to AOKA that she wanted rendered, right, I gave her a very, very detailed scope of work that we were gonna provide at a very detailed rate. And then let her assess, right, was this fair or not?
Somebody else agree?
So you've used two different terms. You've talked about approving them in a contract, and you've also talked about approving them as a vendor. Those are two totally different things. Approving them as a vendor is saying that, yes, we can contract their services and use them for specific things. But if you go into a contract with them at this point in time, then you're obligated to use them and only them for every service that you decide. And we're wide open at this point.
Right.
We're wide open. And just like, and you've talked about building code, but then you're also talking about the ordinances on the sound, which is gonna directly affect us. So is that gonna be something, who's gonna regulate that? Who's gonna?
So that's sound, the noise ordinance is not on.
So totally separate, so
Yeah.
that's, okay.
And Mayor, if I could just address those 2 points. One, whether we sign a service agreement or whether you just contract us to do a service, we are classified as a vendor across the board. And the second point, and I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. You had asked, there was 2 points there.
Well, just approving you as a vendor or signing a contract, are two totally different things. If you approve them as a vendor, then that's just somebody that we can go to and use as needed, okay?
I think that's why it's called an agreement, right? It's not really.
Agreement or contract, and that's, I mean, I think that, again.
It's an agreement.
Well, the
So,
agenda
as a
says
vendor,
a
so that
contract.
agreement saying that we're
If
gonna
we
use them
need
for
his
that.
services, then we.
But as a vendor, if you hire them or approve them as a vendor, then that leaves you open to be able to use somebody else.
Yeah, and that was your second point, right? There is
Yes.
no exclusivity clause in our contract. So look, I'll give you an example of the city of Dallas, right? They contract us to do backup inspections on behalf of another provider, a much larger global provider that just can't fulfill, right, the amount of inspections that the city of Dallas requires. And so the city of Dallas hires us to do backup inspections. So they're using multiple vendors.
So if I had an inspector that was, certified, licensed and all that I already used as a contractor or whatever, I could get them approved as a vendor and use them instead of them. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, that's, again, another thing, a way for us to feel a little bit more secure in our position here.
Like, are we signing an exclusive contract, we're binding, a binding agreement to use them exclusively is how this verbiage is stated in Exhibit A, versus you're gonna use them as on a contractual basis.
Again, that's why we asked to table this, so we can clarify.
There's no exclusivity
Or
clause
talk
in our
about 3
contract.
hours.
There's no exclusivity clause in our contract, like I mentioned, right? We have several cities that use multiple vendors, us included.
You had a question?
No.
I will withdraw my question.
Did you have a question?
I withdraw my question.
You withdraw, okay. So, we've heard a lot from people in the room. I wanna ask you at the table, you have any questions, comments, concerns? And you've heard what's been offered, on top of that, so, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think we could do individual, just like you just did. You could individually, I mean, do we get a break if we have a contract with you? We get to pay $85 an hour instead of $120 an hour?
Unfortunately, no, right? But
Right.
that, again, we're very open to working with the cities and communities that we work. And I'm just being very transparent with that, right? We do work. We wanna be a true partner. We wanna make sure that, again, you're building right, you're building safe at the end of the day.
Tommy?
Well, I think we should table it and get more information about it, because signing a contract with that price on that, even though he said he's not pushy with it, but once you sign something that's written on paper, that's it, it's set.
So this is just an agreement. This is like when you go into a restaurant, you get your menu, and if you need a service, then that's the cost of that service. But we're not.
I have had things done on my place, and I had to have an inspector. But I didn't have to have an inspector like him, or I had to come to the city and get a permit to have this.
We don't have permits.
Whatever done. But I had to have an inspector to make sure it was done right. I just think we should use.
I'll give you an example, like when we hired that company to clean up the trees on the fence line. We signed an agreement to work with them on as needed, so when we call him, we're a priority and he comes to us and does what we need to do and charges us for what he did that day he came. Same day.
If you have the agreement, then we'll be stuck with that.
We'd be on a list.
Yep, we'd be waiting.
On a list.
Yeah, but this is different, cause we're not on a list somewhere, and don't have priority, I mean,
But
that's not how.
outlining the term of
Future does.
agreement, like what we're looking at.
Nathan, thoughts? I'm still going around the table with our council members. Paul?
Myself, I think an agreement is not necessarily a contract to do services, it's just an agreement to have them available. That's
Okay.
kind of what we're thinking of, I'm sorry.
So would it be, Paul, to look at item 1 on the agenda and change the wording from a contract is to an approve an agreement with?
Yes.
Be better language?
Yes, I think that would be a good idea.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you read it?
Have I, are you talking to me? Yeah, I have.
Yeah, question.
Okay, sure. I'm just gonna read the master services agreement, just the items that I have highlighted. This is the agreement made between the city of Burton, a political subdivision of the state of Texas here in the city, and AOKA LLC here in AOKA. The party agrees as follows, and this is the item that you guys are agreeing to sign tonight, or to table it so that we can further look into it. Number 1, the scope of work. The city engages AOKA to provide services set forth in Exhibit A. I will not read Exhibit A because I did go through that in my 3 minutes. Number 3, the payment, city agrees to pay AOKA for their services rendered under this agreement as an amount set forth in Exhibit B, which everybody has a copy of so they can see those. Terms of payment, AOKA will bill the city once a month. Number 5, city agrees they will have no right to control or direct the details, manners, or means by which AOKA accomplishes the results of the services performed hereunder. This is ambiguous language, I understand that, but again, you are agreeing into this contract and his verbiage that, you know, we're gonna do this on a case-by-case basis, that's fine, it's a verbal agreement. what we're asking for is that you guys take a minute, and I know that you feel like you're under this duress to get this, city subdivision plat done. I understand, I feel your urgency with that. But when you're signing into this contract, understand the agreement. Whether you call it an agreement or a contract or whatever, this is a binding agreement. You have to have arbitration, you have to have 30 days written notice. This is a binding document, and you have to seek legal counsel in order to get out of this document, okay? So it's not something to enter into lightly. It is something to understand greatly, because it does affect, while I don't live in the city limits, I do have a business here, but also just looking out for all my friends and neighbors here in town. This is important that we understand, whether you call it agreement, whether you call them a vendor, it's a contract, you're signing it, and you are held responsible to it. So the only thing that I'm saying is, while you say it's only gonna pertain to those certain ordinances, he said you provided him with a specific list of ordinances that you wanted him to address, and you said it would apply to all of them. So, did you not say that she provided you with a specific list of ordinances?
The subdivision ordinance.
Okay,
That was
so,
the specific
so if this
subdivision ordinance.
explicitly agreement is going to apply to the subdivision, then that needs to be clarified too, because that's also information that is misunderstood, because here we are, a whole bunch of people with not all the information, and all we're asking for is some time to review all the information. That's what we're asking for, is time to review.
Make a motion to table this until it could be further reviewed. All you have to, any one of you can make a motion to table.
So.
Gentleman back there got a question.
Yes.
I do have a question now. So, just stop me if I'm out of bounds here. Speaking in reference directly to the subdivision, which is ordinance, the committee writes the ordinance. They submit it to you. There's 6 hours. What happens in that 6 hours?
That is reviewed by our certified master planner, right? It reviews that verbiage. Again, it's reviewed the best practices and standards, and the end result, which was in that scope of work that we provided, was to provide the output that's gonna protect the city.
Okay, so you write the legal jargon that is kind of a CYA for the city. Is that kind of the way I
That's
understand
what
it?
ordinances are, yes, sir.
So the ordinance still comes back to city council after you've resubmitted it back to them?
That is correct, yes, sir.
And they have the final decision to make amendments or changes to any of that?
That is
verbiage?
correct, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right, we just provide best practices, standards,
So you're
right?
more or less a consultant?
Yeah, that's exactly what we are, that's what we do. Right, depending on the service that we're providing. If we're doing inspections, we're not a consultant, right? It's black and white, building code is building code. But in terms of that type of service, right, ordinance review, yes, in that regard, yes.
Dale?
My understanding is the reason why y'all want him is for the liability part of something very bad or something could happen that it would end up on y'all. Is
Well,
that's one of the
it's a
main
s-
things,
It's
right?
a scope of work that's beyond
Our vision,
our expertise.
yeah.
It's just a scope of work beyond our expertise, and so we have to rely on people with that expertise.
To know what to do. And-
Correct.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to table item number 1 until we have more time.
There's a motion on the table to table. Is there a second? And it's been second, so we'll call for the vote. All in favor to table, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we're gonna table this then?
Thank you.
Okay, and then what is your process to move forward, council? You've tabled this, and now what is your process forward?
Well, like I said earlier, I think we need some type of scope, of what we are going, what our plan is. I know, you worked really hard in going through all the ordinances and doing all that and cleaning up a lot of stuff. I would love to see some type of scope, you know, I mean, it was $680, that's, I mean, obviously, that's not a terrible amount of money, I realize a lawyer would cost more than that, but, I would love to see some type of scope or some kind of plan, okay, we're gonna talk about this, kind of like what I think Ned said earlier, if we could put out there, okay, this city council meeting, we're gonna start talking about this, and then we give a couple months, we can make sure everyone has a copy, we start talking about questions and concerns and issues and how.
So you want a workshop,
Yeah.
is that right? Okay, so what do you want a workshop?
Different, I mean, we could look at different ordinances, I mean, you have a list of things
Yes.
that you wanna do, I know that. You don't have a list of all the ordinances that you wanna redo and.
They
talk
all
about.
need to be reviewed,
Okay,
all of them.
all right.
You can start with the building code.
Yeah.
The whole book needs to
Yeah,
be reviewed.
no, I agree, I'm not saying no, but maybe start with the things that maybe, actually, maybe we should start with trying to find something easy, I don't think anything's gonna be easy, but maybe try to find something, let's get a win.
That sounds like.
So what, I mean, based on what AOKA has, and you wanna limit the scope of work, I need some specifics so that the city secretary can work
Well,
and
I
get
mean,
that pulled
I'm
together
gonna
for
need
what's
some,
next.
I think I'm gonna need some time to think about that. I mean, I don't know right offhand exactly all, but, you know.
So you've tabled an agenda item without a plan forward. When I ask for a plan forward, how can we plan forward?
Karen, it is so irresponsible to try and put me on the spot, knowing that it's unfair. We're not running a race, okay? There is no urgency to do this. We've had years of this having an issue. We can take the time. You don't have to pull out of me, or I have to start making up a bunch of things, and you write it down, and then we don't do it, or some, I mean, you know, it's just, give me a minute to think about it. I think it's totally fair. You have the entire month to look at the agenda, think about it, talk about it, have meetings, do all these things. We have a few days. It's unfair.
Can I ask y'all something regarding what he just said? Because I've honestly thought in the last 6 months that we need to be getting together a lot more so that y'all know what's going on. Because you show up one day a month and when everything's written there. And so, do we need
Twice a month meetings?
I don't have a problem with that.
One can be a planning meeting and one can be an open, you know, just a, because that's been a concern of mine for a long time, because y'all really, I go through this stuff, but yet it gets put in front of you, but y'all don't really, there's no time for y'all to discuss.
Yeah, no, I agree, I would love that, I mean, I would love to see that, I
But
mean, that's great.
I'm pushing because last month I gave you the list of items for the urban planning class. I gave the entire, and I heard nobody said, email me what your thoughts are. No emails, none. And so we walked through it a second time, and I finally got one comment, thank you, for a focus. And it's hard. What are we supposed to, what direction do you want to go for ordinance reviews? Do we need to, you want a workshop, you want to figure out what's most important, we can pull out the ordinance folder and you can list that, but we got a lot of building going on. How many buildings have been modified, changed? We don't have building code, but we don't have permits, we don't have inspectors, we don't have any of that with
Yeah, but we haven't had those
the
for
building.
years and just.
And so is that a priority?
Maybe we have a workshop to figure out what the priority is, and maybe even we include some of the town folk that have a lot to say, are all the ordinances aren't online, though, right?
No, only the ones that I
How do we
asked
get,
the most
can we get
about.
them online? I mean, is that a thing, like?
All of them?
Yeah.
Well, most of them, honestly, there's a whole lot that's really old, and
Well, I mean, if
doubt
they're old, they still
enforceable at
count,
this time.
right, but they still count.
Well, I would like to look into how we could get them codified. I mean.
Is that a service AOKA does, is to help with ordinance writing?
What's it take to get them online?
Scan them and put them on the website.
I mean, I think that would be super helpful, because there are a lot of people here. There's someone in this room that has worked in the first or second largest city in the United States in code enforcement. I mean, there's people with some real experience. I think it's important that all the ordinances are online, whether they're old or, I mean, I realized back in the day, some were done, and, you know, I mean, I've been on council a long time. I know sometimes they weren't followed through and things weren't done correctly. But I think we need to have a workshop, and then maybe we put it out in the town to say, hey, we're gonna have a workshop, and we're gonna start talking about these things. Here are the ordinances online. What's the most important? And then maybe we start with the most, whatever they think the most important one is, because you never wanna assume you know what might be important. It could be important to Mr. Winkleman, or it could be important to someone else. Who knows?
Maybe y'all need to do a survey. Send out a survey. I mean, first, maybe y'all need to have several workshops just among y'all and not have the public involved. I mean, school districts do that where, you know, they just have, you know, just closed in, and then later on they have an open board meeting. But maybe do that and then send out surveys for the public.
I think it's important, at least at the very beginning, to try and involve the public as much as we can.
That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
You did
Well,
do.
all of the public, I mean, everyone that has some concern. I mean, I can.
So, in 2 weeks, what is the date?
Today is, oh my goodness. Today's the 13th, so it would be the 27th.
So council, you're gonna move to, we'll just start twice a month, second and fourth?
We can do it not on a, we can do it on a basis that we need to.
Yeah.
Not like we have to be here, you know, like this particular ordinance or this contract or whatever we're talking about, that can be talked about. And then we come another one up, then we can talk about that. I wouldn't necessarily have to have 2 a month just for that. If we had, we could show up and have a pizza. You know what I mean? So we need to be, all these things we need to have done properly.
So you want,
Not to have twice a month or
okay.
whatever we need.
So it be as needed.
As
So
needed, yeah.
in 2 weeks, we will have a workshop then?
Yeah, the 27th. We'll talk about this particular one.
And you wanna look at this particular agreement with AOKA, because they do help with ordinances.
That's a good place to start.
I have a
So,
larger venue you're welcome to
workshop,
host it in.
thank you, but we'll be here at City Hall right now, thank you. Workshop with AOKA, on January 27th to talk about scope of project. And the scope of, what ordinances we need assistance with. Does that work for a topic?
Sure does.
So in 2 weeks, we'll return at a workshop and look at some of these, scopes, of what we'll be able to contract with you all, and then revisit that, I guess, in February, if that moves forward. Then, if that happens, we'll see what comes out of that workshop meeting, but I'll be in contact with you about that. Does that work? Got that, Angela? 27, and the purpose of the workshop. It is to go over, to the scope of, work with, about AOKA, and then to begin looking at our own ordinances, move on to item number 2. Stick around, you stick around? Okay, thank you. Item number 2 is an ordinance, it's today's date, 2026-0113B, repealing the, ordinance from October the 3rd of 1999, so the 99-1003, and adopting a new ordinance with provisions related to noise and sound regulation to the city limits of the city of Burton. So you'll see that in your packet, council. So when we did get a call from a resident regarding the, whether or not we had a noise ordinance, because sheriff's department had called and sheriff was like, well, we don't, anyway, they didn't know about an ordinance. Angela went digging, we found it from 1999.
Yeah, we've always had it. In fact, the one that I added to your packet, this one was created back in, I think, 2019.
No, 1999. No, the original was 1999.
No.
But this one, I'm getting to that history. The one in your packet before you right now, without the whereases at the top, was actually drafted by a previous city attorney, Aaron Kleinschmidt, when Mayor Zajac was mayor. And this was drafted in 2019. This the one that we are looking at, the language for the new one.
This is the old one. It updates.
Angela found the draft in the folder. It was not ever put before council. I looked in 2019 to see what council was wrestling with. It was the resignation of Greg Rollins as police chief, peacock eradication, and the animal control ordinance. And I will tell you that appeared for the last 6 months of the year, almost every meeting. And so the priorities were on trying to figure out life without a police department, peacocks, and animal control. So it did not happen, but this was put together by a previous city attorney. Is there any other history to that, Angela? It is from 2019, so the wording in it is already 7 years old, but it is newer than 1999.
I'm not seeing the copy of the 2000.
It should be right behind.
It doesn't have 19 on it anymore. It's the new one.
Oh, okay.
It is the new one, beyond the whereases.
Oh, I see.
So there was a noise.
Yeah, there's always
We
been
have a noise ordinance in place, but it's dated October the 3rd, 1999. Mayor Zajac, since you're in the room, do you remember having this worked on?
No comment.
If it wasn't above a 10.
Well, this is 75.
What year was it?
Or, I'm sorry, 2019.
Angela, you wanna walk us through?
That's about right. That's about right.
I basically took the same parameters that are in the old one and added them into the new one.
What parameters, so it's, what the new ordinance offered was some definitions, offered, just definitions all the way through. The time frame on that is the same, correct? Quiet time?
It should be, yeah, because I think I took the same times from it.
And when you look at noise ordinances from other cities, it's about the same. It's a quiet time from 10 to 7.
So
Or 10 to 6. On weekdays.
Who's gonna have a meter? And where are they measuring it?
So, no idea. I think, is there a sheriff's? deputies still here? Do they have, noise
Sound
meters,
meter?
sound meters?
That's my knowledge, they do not.
75 decibels, is that,
Yeah, that's about what I'm talking about right now. I've been playing with the decibels meter on my phone for the last.
I think,
So then that's not loud enough. I mean, that needs to be higher, right?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
10.
Well,
a 10.
That's a right.
well, 10
No.
was, right?
10, when my mother was running that train, they used to call me.
Yeah, we're at 70.
you're 70, just say you got a decibel meter right there. So what is it?
Yeah.
So do we need to leave out the decibels since we don't have a meter?
Yeah, right there, just get an app for it.
I mean, there's a free app for it.
Yeah, so there you have it.
So
We have the-
there's our meter, it's a 75 decimeter, and so, that's what's in it. So what it does, the noise ordinance is just enforce a quiet time here in town. For those of us who live in town, we get to have a quiet time. During construction at the school, those bulldozers clicked on right when quiet time was over, and they clicked off when quiet time began. And so they even followed, the rules here in town. So this is just to ensure that people here in town get to have quiet time, and that there is a process in place for residents to be able to have quiet time. And there is a variance if you're gonna have a larger party to let city know that you need to have 11 o'clock that night or whatever.
So the concern, like Orbeez and other, and Simi's place, a lot of us go there, and what time does music end usually? 11?
Forty starts at 10 and short stops at
Yeah,
So that shouldn't be an issue. I think the problem with the complaint that I received was an after party kind of thing.
yeah,
Can I ask y'all to be quiet? I'm having a hard time just hearing our people here at the table. Thank you. Go ahead, Jeff.
So, I'm not in favor of it. I've realized that, and I was in Round Top when they had a noise ordinance, and somebody was staying by the road, and just caused complete havoc. I feel that, if I'm having an issue with someone that's outside causing a consistent amount of noise, I'm gonna just call the police. I don't wanna call you or me or Nathan or anyone to say, go grab your meter and run out there, because that seems,
Guys, I need to listen.
that seems unusual. Like, I don't want that, we shouldn't have that burden. That's what we pay the sheriff to do. Now, the businesses I know are very cognizant of that now, especially now that happened over there.
Like I said, it's not happened since then.
Right.
But that night, that morning was horrible.
Yeah.
Andy, was it from the music in Orby Hall, or was it
No, it was
outside?
It was outside.
Yeah, and I heard that as well.
Yes.
I wanna personally apologize.
I'm gonna be truthful. The music, I'm an audiophile, okay? I love good music. I love good music. I'm 53 years old. I have a system in my truck, okay? I love music, okay? I do. But anyway, so I have never, truthfully, from the music at Orby Hall, we haven't been disturbed. We hear thumping, bass thumping. That's it. I'm all for people having a good time. But it's the whole after.
Yeah, it was the after.
What's going to transpire after the party's over, inside? That is a level of responsibility that, whether it be at the shortstop, which I have friends that go there, I can't drink, so, but. So anyway, but it's, I think that with the noise ordinance, we can't truthfully dictate it all the time. Because there's a guy who's up and down Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
Daily.
Yeah.
And he's got nice little LED and RGB lights in the back of his windows.
Oh, there's like 2 of them
And he's
right there.
slamming. And I'm sitting in my tech room, which is the far back of our building, and I know when he's making the turn up by here on the spur,
And going down
and
69,
by the
7.
Linkies,
I hear
and,
it too.
yes,
So-
and by Randy Schultz. So, but,
Is that a
yes,
bid?
it rattles the windows. But the point is, the music from Orby Hall, I think, when you're affecting, I'm all about livelihood, you know, and being considerate of your neighbors, yes. But when you have a business, it depends on good music and attracting a crowd. It's the after party that's the problem. That affected Andy. And you know what? I have been at the ER in the morning in the early morning hours when his wife is working. I know that her hours are all over the place. I've been in the ICU when Miss Lucy's there. So I know, and my job really depends on rest. Because I couldn't woke up in the middle of the night, you know, so I need to rest. So, but truthfully, the music at Orby Hall, and I have friends who've gone to church, you know, I think it affects residents and their ability to rest minimally. It's just the after party.
Yes.
It's enforcing that people need, if the business is closed, the party's over, the band stopped playing, the alcohol shut down, go home. And that's the problem. And I think with Andy, he has said he hasn't had a problem since, so I'm all about, you know, business owners, and they could come in and they have a service, they have, you know, about having fun, listening to music.
That's why I said about be careful with a knee jerk with this.
Right.
Because it has
Yes.
been taken care of, and I realize, and I don't think you meant for that to happen. I think
No,
your
we
your
ordered
folks are
signs
just
out.
partying a little bit too hard out there on that little deck.
So, but what we're just updating,
Yeah.
again, it's 26 years old. In the back?
I'd like to take some consideration, just a brief premise of who I am and what I do. I've been a live sound engineer, specifically live sound reinforcement over the course of the last 21 years. And I've dealt with larger metropolitan areas and their sound ordinances and enforcement, direct enforcement, with a code enforcement officer with a meter in his hand. Now, dealing with those ordinances, they're very clear, cut and dry, property line, 85 dB, A-weighted, specific distances, and generally given the benefit of the doubt in the pursuit of commerce. Now, there's just some very vague, there's, you know, because of its loudest intensity disturbs, injures, and endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace, or safety of reasonable persons of ordinary auditory sensitivity within the jurisdictional limits of the city, after the person responsible for making the noise receives a complaint from the notice of a city employee, elected official, or peace officer that is a public nuisance. There's no real clear definition by any means other than the discretion of the individual making the assessment of what the actual parameters are.
So where are you in the document?
Yes. Page 2, section 3, article 1, point B. All of article 1 for that matter. That would directly pertain to me. Like, I could be, for instance, having an event. I work for both the Shortstop and Ordinance. And I have been a professional live sound engineer, like I said, over the course of 21 years. I've worked in Irwin Center, Reliant, everywhere. Now,
So we're talking about quiet time, during
Correct.
quiet time, that
Correct.
this noise is going on.
so 10 o'clock, ordinance goes into effect. How do you define the violation? So like, if, let's just say, I'm talking right now at about 75 dB. By ordinance, the code enforcer could come up with a sound meter by this and say, hey, you're creating a public nuisance put the meter in front of my mouth at 75 dB and write me a citation for $250 just because I'm talking. So there's no clear parameter as to what justifies, where do you say that is, you know, there should be more clarification as to where it should be metered from, how it should be metered. Yeah, sure, the duration of 1 minute is fine, it's understandable. But I really do feel like there should be a better clarification of
And when we
points
talk
of
about
meter.
quiet time, we're talking about noises other than just music as well. Loud
Sure.
neighbors, parties in the backyard carrying
Absolutely.
on, so all of that's included
Absolutely.
in this ordinance as well.
Again,
So do we just remove the decimal level, and if it's uncomfortable to a certain person?
But who is
That-
monitoring this?
yeah, that's discretionary, that's
Why
my
can't
problem.
we just call the law?
That's really my,
I mean,
that's blatant discretionary.
who's
gonna monitor that?
I really don't think we necessarily need a noise ordinance.
We already have the noise ordinance.
Yeah, the noise ordinance is
Have a
actually
noise
incredibly
ordinance now.
restrictive.
I know we do, I'm looking at it, I'm saying we don't need it.
We don't need.
I mean, I'd say maybe
Oh, no, you need
whittle
one.
it down to
Absolutely,
we
there
need a
should be
quiet
one.
time. And then if somebody has an issue, they need to call the sheriff.
We're right next to Citizen State Bank, right? So all hours of the night, guess where people are going?
Yeah.
The ATM.
Yeah.
They're driving through the ATM, so what do we hear?
Now music.
We hear music, we hear the after, the new diesel exhaust are more because of regulations. But the aftermarket diesel exhaust, the aftermarket truck exhaust, our car, or a 392 Dodge Charger with an aftermarket exhaust. We hear that all hours of the night. The only time it annoys me is when they're thumping and over there for like 15 minutes. I get it, you go through the drive-through, we hear it beep, 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 all this stuff, and you hear the music going, it is what it is. You know, we live there, we accept it, it's okay. I have only 1 or 2 times I have been to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm getting ready to call dispatch.
So,
I'm this close, so, but.
so how do you, when we would call law enforcement, how would they enforce a law that doesn't exist?
Exactly, yes.
Okay,
Well, I agree,
so-
there needs to be some level of decibels, like what he's alluded to, 75 or 80, that is pretty low.
And I'm not willing, Jeff, I'm not willing to give up a 1999 ordinance because you don't want it, because I don't want to live in Northgate. This is not a college town, and I need
Okay, let me
documents rules.
yes, I back up a little, I'll back up a little, I agree, I think there needs to be some structure to this, but I think this is 4 pages, I think it needs to be.
It was drafted by a lawyer, not paid for by
Yeah,
this administration.
Yeah, by the hour for 4 pages, I imagine. So maybe we put this on the list for the,
For
table.
AOKA?
We'll do it right after AOKA.
In a workshop in 2 weeks.
Can we make line item changes here? I mean, I think it
no,
can quickly be.
I think we can.
I think
To
it can be
to
quickly
1999?
done.
Or to the current
To
one?
the current one, I mean,
Well, to the, I'm not opposed to the new one.
we just remove all decimal.
I wouldn't even remove the decibels, I would increase the number, probably to, I don't know,
85.
100, since 75 is the level in this room. But I'm not opposed, just put that on, I am not opposed to a noise ordinance. I think it's reasonable, as long as there are some definitions, so that somebody's pissed at shortstop, they don't call and say, hey, they're playing loud music. Right.
We can't get you anyway. When it's too loud, there's nobody to call over there, so.
Well,
you're not taking orders
Right,
anymore.
yeah, you can't get us on the phone, but you could call the sheriff, and then they could enforce it because there's an ordinance, right? So,
So, noise guy, what would be one that would not, that would be,
like, is 100
acceptable?
reasonable?
A language that would be more,
Now, I'm not really
Realistic.
talking about changing the whole ordinance, but the decibel level, what would be a reasonable decibel level?
85 dB in my experience has been what I've encountered. And now that would not necessarily be metered from the mixing position, this would be metered from the property line.
Meters for property line,
This how close you live.
Because if someone's standing inside shortstop and they say, well, this music's too loud, I don't like it, then they can call and make a complaint.
Yeah.
Right, they could, but they could also call and make a complaint. But if you're at your property, Mayor, and you say this, I'm done with this music tonight, you know, cut it off, and I'm past that hour, then you have a legit claim because you're beyond my property. You know what I'm saying? If it's on my property line, I mean, there's language in here that says that if it's a commercial property, they have the right to be on that property and they can make that complaint on my property. But I also have the right to refuse service to them.
So, what we're looking at is section 3, item 1, letter A, changing 75 to 85, letter C, changing 75 to 85.
You think that's?
That's what he said is
And
85.
inclusion of metering
Metered from property
awaited
line.
from the property line.
And that would be on C.
I don't think that's very loud.
Yes.
We're talking 75 now.
If you would like it louder, I mean, 95 is like what Sam told me.
I mean, I don't know, I'm throwing numbers out there, so, I mean, like I say, you know.
85 is the sound of a vacuum cleaner running. So if a vacuum cleaner was sitting right here, that would be 85 dB.
I just wanna say this, in August, every year, it's been a celebration down there, I guess when I was a kid. And now, the noise start at 10 in the morning, and it go all the way to 11 or 12 at night. Well, I accept that noise, cause that was going on when I was a kid.
I've accepted that for years.
So I sit on the porch and listen to it, I go in the house and listen to it.
It's like all y'all down.
But I don't
there,
bother those
you
people.
gotta hear the football game.
I hear them all the time.
I hear the football game, I hear the band.
The band.
There are
Yeah,
exceptions to
football
that.
games exceed 85.
Okay, so, we're looking at changing the 75 to 85s in A and C and adding to the end metered from property line. Is that correct?
Yes.
It gets a little loud sometimes.
So I know that with festivals going on in town, and if there's later times, there is an inclusion in this ordinance that quiet time, you get a variance to quiet time on page 4.
Yeah, we always do 11.
And so that is 11 to 7 for quiet time on that variance. And so when Long Life Brotherhood throws their party, then they would need to talk to us about a variance. And they would then close down the music at 11 that night.
It's normally closed down at that time.
Right. He came in and asked us what the times were. He
have no complaints.
Way back there.
Very
Way back there.
respectful.
So, the other place you need to change a number is page 3, section 7, number 2, letter G, last line, change that from 75 to 85. H, same.
There's also
Are we gonna do it till 9 or 10?
It's at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Well, this one is strictly, regarding construction related activities.
Football games in. That's what I wanted to know.
So 65 is for residential.
Second, Jeff, I got a question here.
Oh, it's the same thing,
Yeah.
Okay. Macy.
Letter H.
H,
There's
O.
65 and 75.
So
Should
I,
we change them both to 85?
the noise on H,
85,
it's
H.
65 on residential property or 85 on commercial or industrial. It was a 10 difference the last time. Do you wanna do a 75 on residential, 85 commercial then? Or do you wanna go 85, 85?
That one specifically addresses noise produced by operation of heating, refrigeration, ventilation, air conditioning, pool equipment. So you're talking about, if you wanna raise that one to 85, you're talking about your neighbor's broken AC that's running constantly, okay? So you wanna be careful with that one. You don't wanna make that one so high that their ticking can constantly annoy you.
So do you wanna leave it at 85 or drop it lower?
Just saying, I'm just throwing information out there.
You better leave it at 75 and go to.
Means Nathan needs to go
This
back
is-
mine.
this is-
You know?
But they do, they do, use the front end, it's up to 85, that's what I had the most.
I know, that's what I mean.
No, it's 60 on H. Your
Yeah.
first number is gonna be what?
75 and then
So 10 degree difference
same
between the
as it
two.
was.
No, it was 65, 75, we're
Well,
just doing a
right.
10.
This refrigerator runs at 65, just for reference.
That's fine.
Got a
So-
question for you.
Sure.
Neither one of none of the ordinances are on your government page, period. This ordinance is not on.
Yes, that question was asked of Angela earlier. She has many of the ordinance posted, but not all of them.
Okay, my second question is, I don't have the 19, I do have the 99. It covers everything you need. Why are we spending time and money on something that you already got something of?
Well, because that one is rated at 55 dB.
It doesn't have DB, no, it doesn't, but it has an ordinance that keeps quiet.
It had DB.
So,
Who's gonna enforce it?
With the ordinance in place, the sheriff's department can
Yeah.
enforce it.
Yeah, they can enforce it.
So I said with the ordinance in place, the sheriff's department can enforce it. So
They're not
with the
gonna
current.
enforce the city rule.
No, yeah.
They do not, the county will not enforce the city rules, ordinances.
They might be a little different now after what happened.
so what we can do, if it's a constant, the city, we have a process set up that was created in 19, was it? So there is a process set up to deal with these ordinances, and if we have somebody who is a consistent violator of the ordinance, then the first thing is a letter. And then we follow, and then we
How
follow.
many violations have we had over the past 2 years?
I'm sorry, what?
How many times have you had this come up over the last 2 years, 3 years?
Of noise?
Yeah. How many complaints have you had over this period of time?
So it's one, but we're trying to also update the ordinance at the same time, Chuck.
What was wrong with the one we had?
How many complaints do we get in 1 year? One, two?
I mean, how much did that cost for you to draft that 4 pages?
Nothing, because it was
Nothing,
drafted
it was
when
already done.
Zychek was mayor. It was already paid for.
No, the new one.
Yes, that's the one I'm talking
It
about.
is referring to, this one was drafted in 19.
Yeah.
The one we're discussing right now
Yeah.
was drafted in 19. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It didn't cost a thing. It was just never put in place. Correct. Paid for, but never voted on. So, council, there is an noise ordinance in front of you. When you make a motion, if you make that motion, see, how can we do this
So
easily?
just
With the
discuss
changes made, discuss changes made, and we have noted those all through. I'll go over them one more time. And that is page 2, section 3, letter A. Line 2 is 85. Letter C, line 2, 85 with the addition of metered from property line. Page 3, section 7, letter 2. Number 2, letter G, last line, changed to 85. Letter H, just below. Second to last line, first number would be a 75, second, number would, on the first, that last line is an 85. So we've changed the decibel levels. We've put a parameter on the meter from the property line. We do have a process in place here at the city that we are using and finding at least one success with. Most of the time, when we send letters about mowing, that takes place as well. So people are compliant mostly when they get a letter. So we do have a process in place. Residents in town always have the option of calling law enforcement. there any other issues we need to address that I've missed? Not, is there a motion to approve, noise ordinance, 2026-0113B?
Andy's got
How does this affect,
It
sporting
doesn't,
events?
it's outside of the perimeter.
Okay,
That's
all right.
under defense.
Okay, so my horn won't affect it.
As long as you don't blow it after 10.
Well, after 10, I'm coming for you.
I'll aim it right at your house.
Yes, you are.
School sponsored event.
Is there,
Can I throw in one other addition? On section 5, enforcement, you have the word designee in there, and I would be very hesitant to wanna throw city employees into harm's way.
So-
But I don't know what a designee is, and now you have someone who nobody even potentially knows.
so, that was,
Who's been deputized to do
Right,
that.
right.
That's kind of a risk for the city to.
city mayor, city secretary, we do not have a code enforcement officer.
Right.
Or the
I would think
designee.
under this,
But-
it would be a police officer.
It would be a police
I
officer
think
as the
you should say
designee.
law enforcement officer, but I wouldn't have y'all in the business of appointing a stranger to go to somebody's property and, you know what I'm saying? It's dangerous. Yeah, get shot, yeah.
So in the past, I know Nathan's gone down to the Cotton Gin, when the Cotton Gin pavilions were rented and there was party going on very late at night. You went down there yourself and they were compliant once going down there.
It better be, they enter the meeting.
So, section 5, city mayor.
He was never told that was happening? I'm sorry. Okay.
City mayor, city secretary, law enforcement officer, or their designee shall have authority to enforce this article. Or their designee stay or go,
I think that should go.
okay, or law enforcement officer,
Officer shall have.
okay. So we've clarified that. Now, is there a motion, to approve, or is there a motion on the floor for ordinance 2026-0113B?
I'll put the motion on the floor.
With changes?
Yes, with changes we just discussed.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. The